Janet Yellen is always for the SEC, the CFTC, always on the side of Gary Gensler. They're besties, in fact. Janet Yellen was recently calling for more crypto enforcement. This was last week. She's very supportive of the SEC, the CFTC, and crypto enforcement. In her televised appearance on CNBC, she appeared to reference the Treasury Department's contributions to the Financial Stability Oversight Council's report that warns about the risks of crypto. FSOC, which is also chaired by Yellen, determined in October 2022, that cryptocurrencies could pose risks to U.S. stability under certain conditions. And she also said she wants to see Congress act. She said additional regulation for crypto firms is appropriate. She says, I see some holes in the system where additional regulations I think would be appropriate. I think that's very ironic, considering that Silicon Valley Bank went down, crashed and burned, to be quite honest with you guys. And right after that, what did Janet Yellen say about our economy?
And take an economy that is performing very well. We've had the fastest recovery from a downturn that we've ever seen, and the fastest recovery of any nation around the globe. The economy is doing well.
Well, Janet, let's remember that right after you said this, when we recovered from Silicon Valley Bank and you saved Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic then went down a few weeks later. Stock halted 9 times in one day, and the stock ended up going to zero and was acquired by JP Morgan. If you're concerned about your bank, then you should maybe listen to this clip of Janet Yellen.
I need to be able to drill in on a couple of things. Let me start with some of the banking issues we're dealing with on it. Will the deposits in every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of their size, be fully insured now? Are they fully recovered? Every bank, every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of the size of the deposit, will they get the same treatment that SVBP just got or Signature Bank just got?
A bank only gets that treatment if a majority of the FDIC board, a supermajority of the Fed board, and I, in consultation with the president, determine that the failure to protect uninsured depositors would create systemic risk and significant economic and financial consequences.
If you are in a small bank, they really don't care about what happens to you, because you have to have a near unanimous decision by Janet Yellen and the FDIC, plus the approval of the president, to get your funds back from a small bank. Nothing is guaranteed. Your money is never guaranteed to you. We are facing incredible inflation, where we know with Bitcoin, there's only 21 million Bitcoin, an inflation schedule every 4 years with that halving. Here's some clips of Tom Emmer talking to Janet Yellen.
Pre-pandemic, or before the pandemic, the definition of a recession was pretty easy. It was 2 consecutive quarters of economic contraction. However, somewhere along the way in this new Biden administration, President Biden's tenure, the administration seems to have changed the definition of recession, and the National Bureau of Economic Research asserts that a recession is now, quote, a significant decline in economic activity that is spread across the economy and lasts more than a few months, close quote. This has had a bit of a gaslighting effect on the American people. Does the National Bureau of Economic Research directly consider inflation when determining if we are in a significant economic decline?
Inflation is not part of an economic decline.
Inflation is not a part of the definition, or not really considered in a recession. How is that possible? We then have Janet Yellen talking about the dollar as a reserve asset for the world. Should we be worried?
The fact that the use of the dollar has diminished and gone down against competing currencies over the years?
There's been some increase in holdings of other reserve assets, but that's something to be expected in a growing world economy where there is a desire to diversify. But
So we should expect
still
less use of the
reliant.
dollar, is what you're saying. We should be
We
anticipate.
should expect over time gradually increased share of other assets in reserve holdings of countries. It's a natural desire to diversify, but the dollar is far and away the dominant reserve asset.
Janet Yellen says indirectly that yes, the dollar is slowly diminishing in value in our own country and around the world because it is losing its dominance as the global reserve currency. Countries worldwide are dropping the US dollar. De-dollarization is what they're calling it. China and Russia are trading their own currencies. Beijing and Brazil has also dropped the dollar in bilateral trade. The UAE, United Arab Emirates, is selling China its gas using the yuan. Even the Financial Times newspaper acknowledged that a multipolar currency world is emerging. Do you guys forget this from March?
People who work numbers, I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks. For the people.
This market will be different in a couple of weeks, says the president of Kenya. And was he correct? Absolutely, because this was right after SVB. And this was going into the First Republic Bank failure, which led to all of the bank stocks crashing to where they are now that are still over 80% down on the year. We should be worried about our dollar dominance. We should be worried about everything that Janet Yellen is telling us not to worry about, which is why we opt into a decentralized financial ecosystem, which is why we opt into Bitcoin, where we know there's a finite supply of 21 million Bitcoin, an inflation schedule every 4 years, and we get to send, receive, and send value whenever we want to whoever we want, wherever we are in the world, instantly, permissionlessly, and trustlessly. And we get to own it. We get to be our own bank while we're at it.